Lena Carter wiped her hands on her apron and sighed, stretching her aching back. It was past midnight, and Eddie's 24/7 diner was still buzzing with its usual crowd, tired truck drivers, college students cramming for exams, and a few lost souls looking for a place to sit in silence. Lena had been working here for almost 3 years, juggling shifts to save money for medical school. She had always believed that hard work would lead her to her dreams. But tonight, she felt exhausted. Then, the door swung open, and he walked in. A man in a sharp, tailored suit, his emerald green eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place: fatigue? Sadness? Or maybe something deeper. He took a seat at table 9, the farthest corner of the diner, where the dim light barely touched. Lena grabbed a coffee pot and walked over. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. The man looked up at her, his eyes locking onto hers for a brief moment before nodding. "Yes, please." As she poured, she noticed he had the kind of presence that made people take a second glance. He wasn't just rich, he had an air of quiet authority, the kind that made people listen when he spoke. Still, there was something else, a heaviness in his posture, like he was carrying a weight no one could see. "Long day?" Lena asked. The man exhaled slowly. "Something like that." Lena gave a small smile. "I get it. Some days feel like they never end. But a good cup of coffee makes everything a little better." For the first time, the man's lips curled into a small smile. Before leaving, he placed a $100 bill under his cup. Lena's eyes widened. "This is way too much," she called out, but by the time she turned around, the man was already gone. That was the first time she met Nathaniel Pierce. The next night, Nathaniel came back. And the night after that. Every time, he ordered coffee, sat in the same corner, and left an absurdly large tip. It wasn't long before they started talking more. "Do you always work nights?" Nathaniel asked one evening. Lena nodded. "Mostly. I'm saving up for med school. It's slow, but I'll get there." Nathaniel sipped his coffee, watching her curiously. "You're working this hard for school?" "Of course," Lena said. "No one's going to hand me a degree. I have to earn it." Nathaniel's gaze darkened slightly. "Not everything should be earned the hard way." Lena frowned, not quite understanding what he meant. "And what about you?" she asked, changing the subject. "What do you do?" Nathaniel hesitated, as if weighing his words. "I run a business." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Must be a pretty big one if you can afford to leave $100 tips." Nathaniel smirked but didn't confirm or deny it. "Let's just say I have more money than I know what to do with." Lena laughed. "Must be nice." "Not always." His voice was quieter now. There was something about the way he said it that made Lena curious. But before she could ask, Nathaniel glanced at his watch and stood up. "See you tomorrow, Lena," he said before leaving. She watched him go, wondering why a billionaire would spend his nights in a small-town diner, drinking cheap coffee. A week later, something unexpected happened. A sleek, black limousine pulled up outside the diner. Lena was wiping down a table when she saw Nathaniel step out of the car, dressed even more impeccably than usual. He walked in, but this time, he didn't sit down. "Come with me," he said. Lena blinked. "What?" "I want to show you something." She hesitated. "Why?" Nathaniel smiled slightly. "Because I think you deserve a chance at something bigger." Lena felt a twinge of suspicion. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said. "I know you work harder than most people ever will. I know you have dreams you refuse to give up on. And I know that sometimes, people need help, even if they don't ask for it." Lena stared at him, her heart pounding. After a long pause, she sighed. "Fine. But if you turn out to be a serial killer, I'm fighting back." Nathaniel chuckled. Fair deal. Imagination. Minutes later, Lena found herself stepping into a penthouse suite in one of the tallest buildings in the city. The place was breathtaking, massive glass windows overlooking the skyline, a chandelier worth more than her entire college tuition, and furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. Nathaniel gestured around. This is my world. Lena let out a low whistle. Not bad. So, what do you want from me? Nathaniel leaned against the marble counter. I want to invest in you. Lena frowned. Invest? In what? In your dreams. Your education. Your future. Lena stared at him. Why would you do that? Nathaniel's expression softened. Because someone once did the same for me. For the first time, he told her his story, how he had grown up in foster care, how a stranger had given him a chance when no one else did, and how he had promised to pay it forward. You're the first person I've met in a long time who reminds me of myself, he said. And I don't want money to be the thing that holds you back. Lena felt her throat tighten. No one had ever offered her kindness like this before. I don't know what to say. Nathaniel smiled. Say yes. And for the first time in years, Lena realized, maybe she didn't have to do everything alone. Months passed. With Nathaniel's help, Lena enrolled in medical school. But she refused to let him pay for everything, so she worked part-time at a clinic, determined to prove she was worth his investment. Meanwhile, Nathaniel started something new, a foundation to help struggling students like Lena. One night, as they sat on the balcony of his penthouse, watching the city lights, Lena turned to him. You know, for a billionaire, you're not so bad. Nathaniel chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. She smiled. Thank you, Nathaniel. For everything. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. You changed my life, Lena. I should be thanking you. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Lena felt something shift, something deeper than kindness, something unspoken. And as the city buzzed beneath them, she realized that sometimes, the greatest riches weren't in money, but in the people who changed your life forever.